You ready?
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know, do we want to small talk? How was your day?
I got it. Hello and welcome to... We're already from the same page.
Did you forget the name of my podcast?
I was too busy thinking of the fun little intro.
Nicholas! Hello everyone, and welcome to The Same Page. If you don't already know me, I'm your host, Jenna Clausen, lover of books, sympathizer of book-to-movie adaptations, and owner of an embarrassingly long TBR list. Each month, I'll be bringing on a bookish friend or two to discuss some of our current and favorite books, as well as a few recent binge watches, and to share in a buddy read. Grab a drink, join the discussion, and let's find out if we're on the same page. My guest today is my husband Nick, returning to the podcast after co-hosting our Favorites of 2020 episode last December, although he also frequently acts as the show's one-man IT department. Nick is getting ready to transition into law school, and while he isn't on Bookstagram, he's very good at Barnes & Noble runs and letting me ignore him when I'm reading. This Instagram husband doesn't have much social media, but you can follow the pod or tackling_TBR on Instagram to see lots of him in my stories. And with that, let's jump on into the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Same Page podcast. You might notice that these dulcet tones, this fucking instrument, is not your typical host voice. This is Nick Clausen, tolerator of books and...
Tolerator of books and altogether better half of the podcast.
Preferrer of the visual medium. And we're going to do things a little bit differently today.
Yeah, definitely because Nick thought this would be fun and not at all because I got very busy with stuff for my Etsy shop and didn't have time to read the book this week.
Little column A, little column B. I don't know why we need to put labels on it.
Yeah, we're just going to say mostly column A.
Mostly column A.
Where it was you thinking this would be super cute.
It would be super cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way this episode's going to work, we're going to talk about... someone to love you in all your damaged glory.
Yes.
Is that even? I feel like I messed that.
Somebody who will love you.
Somebody who will love you in all your damaged glory.
Next week.
Yes. This week we're going to do a little bit of a switcheroo. We're going to do a typical Bookish Banter episode, but we're going to talk about Jenna's favorite things.
These are a few of my favorite things.
So basically,
once again, we are recording at 9 p.m.
Yeah,
so,
it's dark. I get home late. What do you want from me?
I'm just explaining why I am already kooky.
You're pretty. So basically we're just going to go through the same questions you ask all of your guests and tried to ask with me last week before I
did try
fucking derailed it. So you better have some good answers for these.
Oh, God. So, funny story. I have not thought about answers for the questions that I ask every week in a hot minute, and I did not have any brain power to put towards thinking about those today. So I may not have answers. We shall see. First, do you want to tell us what you're drinking?
That was going to be my first question, babe.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Let me drive the boat, okay?
Okay,
let me drive the podcast.
This is your podcast.
The podcast is a boat, and I'm going to drive the boat. I'm the captain of the boat. I'm Jack Sparrow and Donald Duck all in one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, he's the best sailor.
I'm the best sailor. Okay.
Drive your fucking boat. Do the thing.
So we're going to go through these list of questions that you've been gracious enough to provide me because I have them memorized already, but we're just going to keep them on the phone because I'm a professional.
I don't even have them memorized when I do it every other week.
That makes me feel better.
That's why I have a list, is because I will always forget what to talk about.
Speaking of forgetting what to talk about, one of the questions that you ask every episode, but you've forgotten to include on the list you sent me, gasp, unprofessional. What are you drinking this episode?
For the record, I don't include it because I don't forget that one because I am a professional. That's why I get paid the exactly $0. Also, I don't know what I'm drinking. because you made it.
I did make you drink it.
You last time you at least said like, I'll make you like a rosé thing. This time you literally just showed up upstairs with a drink and you were like, here you go, drink this. So I have no input.
Okay, so we'll do a little fun little game. Take a sip.
Oh god.
And you try and guess what I put in it.
This is going to be a very fun game for a podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to be some like sipping ASMR sounds. I'm sure nobody
I cannot
will be
stress enough,
against that.
do not sip into the microphone or I will quit this podcast.
You can't quit this podcast. You're married to me.
It's my podcast.
Mm.
Driving the boat. Okay.
I'm going to go vodka.
Yes.
I'm going to go one of our sparkling waters. So maybe the hibiscus?
It is the hibiscus. That's the flow.
Dang. I'm so good at this game.
You are. We got two more ingredients.
Oh, no. Lemon juice.
No.
Is there some sort of citrus? I'm getting a little bit of a tart.
I get why you're getting that. I did give it a little sprig of the green tea sugar or green tea syrup.
Okay.
It's a little spritzy.
I don't know. I'm out of ideas.
A splash of elderflower liqueur, Saint Germain's. It's a floral fantasy.
I am all about the elderflower liqueurs.
Oh, I know. Just the one, because it's the only one I've ever seen.
Yeah, just the one.
Just the one, just Saint Germain's. All the other elderflower liqueurs, all the pretenders and wannabes.
Jesus.
Better step off.
I was going to say, is there an end to that sentence?
No, it just kind of trails out.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm in a mood. What am I drinking, you ask?
Yes, I did.
I have this delicious amaretto sour.
Ooh,
yeah,
jealous.
Yeah. What makes it interesting is that it has about half a part of bourbon in there, cask strength bourbon. Just kind of gives it a little body, with some little body, oddy. And
we can't talk about Drag Race for a second episode in a row.
Says who?
Me.
There are no Drag Race podcasts out there. We would be doing the world a favor.
People who do not actually know do not believe his vicious lies. There are so many Drag Race podcasts out there.
16. You can't. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Take it away. If you're driving the boat, I'm just gonna sit back and drink my drink.
Yeah. So let's get a little small talk, a little Snapchat, a little talky talk.
A little Snapchat?
I don't know. It's a little chat there for a second. It's a little Snapchat. You've been doing these DisneyBounds in March. Now,
I did cut that part out of the last episode because I felt very awkward.
It's going to be a feature now. We're going to talk about it.
Oh God!
I brought you to the red table, and we're going to talk about it. So, for those uneducated folks, that seems mean. Let's take that back. Let's take that back. For those that are not in the know, what is Disneybounding?
Well, Nicholas, I am so glad that you asked me. Disneybounding started as a blog. I think it was a Tumblr thing originally. But basically the gist, the backstory is that going to Disney parks, if you are an adult or tall enough, old enough to seem like an adult, so about the age 15, 16, you can't wear character outfits into the parks outside of very specific times, like the Halloween parties, because they don't want any kiddos in the parks to think that you are the hired characters and come up to you instead of the characters that they give lots of training to and pay lots of money to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you wouldn't want, Prince Eric to be doing a cust on Main Street.
Right. Yeah. They, take a lot of pride in how they train their character performers, and so they don't want any Joe Schmo on Main Street to get confused for Cinderella. And so...
But Joe Schmo kills it. She serves it. She's running that runway, mama.
Josephina Schmo. But it was a blog to create outfits that were themed around Disney characters or movies, rides, that kind of thing, where you can wear everyday clothing and just maybe dress in the color palette of the character or in the feeling, like in the spirit of the character. And you can wear those to the parks and not get in trouble for dressing like a character, or you can do it on a work day and people won't look at you funny because you're wearing a ball gown, like that kind of thing.
People do typically look at me funny when I show up to work in a ball gown.
Yeah,
but that might be
same.
more because I'm in the military and also 6'1".
That's fair. The height does, it's hard to find a hoop skirt with the correct
I
proportions.
just end up looking
6'1".
like Ellie Diamond. Like that's
Oh no. That's so sad. No more Drag Race. Stop it.
I make no promises. So you've been doing these DisneyBounds all March. I will make you talk about how every March the Paige, the woman who created the Tumblr, does a challenge every March where you do it for 31 days straight.
Yeah,
and the thing,
because DisneyBounding became this huge thing.
Yeah.
I mean, not only did it obviously find its way off of the original blog, and it's now on Instagram and Facebook and all of those places, but there are now celebrities who have been photographed for magazines in the parks and they will be in DisneyBounds, or they just came out with a book about DisneyBounding.
Yeah, we have a friend in that book.
Yeah, she's lovely.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of other DisneyBounders who I follow and who follow me who are also featured in the book. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if that sounds at all cool and not the weirdest thing you've ever heard, you should check out the book. I will put the information for it in the show notes. It's a fun thing.
Segues are hard. Speaking of books.
Wow, that very strong drink almost came out my nose. Oh boy.
So we mentioned some questions that we were going to ask. We were just going to put you in the hot seat. So we're just going to see how you're feeling. So let's begin. What are your favorite genres of book, would you say?
So I have a couple. It kind of depends on what I am in the mood for, much to the dismay of my to-be-read list. I am a huge mood reader. And so I actually, when we get to the current read question, I have like 5...
I thought you said you didn't have these memorized.
I know. I have like 5 books, technically, that I'm reading right now, just because I am kind of in a weird place mentally, as far as I've been pretty stressed and busy lately. And so I'm doing a lot of mood reading, but unless I am reading something specifically because I was sent it or because I'm reading it for a different specific purpose, some of my go-to genres are romantic comedies, kind of what I lean towards in movies. Also, it's comfort food for my soul. I really like thrillers and mysteries. If I'm going more mystery, I tend to lean more towards like the Agatha Christie of it all. Otherwise,
some whodunits.
Yeah, I love a whodunit or like a cozy mystery.
Who doesn't love a whodunit?
And then if I'm going for more the thriller route, I can go some more contemporary thrillers. I am trying to dip my toe into fantasy, and I'm trying to kind of get back into historical fiction, but I would say that thriller / mystery and contemporary romance are really my 2 comfort reads.
I'd say, yeah, you definitely have, like, you can dip your toe into fantasy and historical fiction. I've seen you do it a lot, but there's always that romantic element to it. Mm-hmm. You love a World War II romance across...
I do love a World War II
across
story.
fronts.
Mm-hmm.
You love A Court of Thorn and Roses, which I read the back. It just sounded like fanfic for Lord of the Rings.
It does, even when you're reading it, it does feel fairly fanficky. But, don't knock it till you try it. I love it.
Hey, we all wanted to have a night alone with Legolas when we were growing up. Like, I get it.
This is a goof that's lost on me because I haven't really seen the movies.
Not yet.
Not
this
yet.
weekend.
Oh boy.
Yeah. That was the Orlando Bloom character.
Yes, that's like one of the few names that I know. But it's Orlando Bloom with the long, luscious blonde hair.
Yes, they are taking those Hobbits dyes in guard. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you said you're a mood reader.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance your habits, your mood kind of approach to picking a book with doing a podcast where you have no control over what book you read?
The honest answer or the more realistic answer?
You can choose. Be political, be like, all books are treasures.
All books are treasures. No, I mean, the realistic answer is I don't always. It was one thing when I was more doing the podcast with Dana every week, and I was kind of in charge of picking some of the books, and I could kind of pick a book that had been on my TBR for a while, or maybe a book that a publisher had sent me and I hadn't gotten a chance to read yet, something like that. It is a little bit more difficult now just because I don't pick any of the books. I let my guests do that, which is fun. You know, some of the books that we have done for the podcast more recently are books that have been on my list and I would have picked up eventually anyway. And some of them aren't, you know, some of them I wouldn't necessarily have picked up on my own. So it is really fun and interesting in that aspect of it. Depending on how hectic the rest of my life gets, sometimes I have a hard time reading other books that maybe I've just been wanting to read, or that for the blog I need to be reading soon while I'm reading for the podcast. So I kind of just hope that I get through the podcast books pretty quickly so that I can continue reading and kind of, for lack of a better term, get back to my regularly scheduled program. But it just kind of depends.
Gotcha. Do you have any difficulty like making time for those books that you haven't picked?
Well, this week I did. Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
You're right, but like I wouldn't have considered that a like conflict between books. It was a conflict with your work schedule and stuff like that. So you're an avid reader,
yes.
You would say.
I try.
Yeah.
I do my best.
Yeah, you do what you can.
Yeah. When I have the available brain power, I'm top notch.
Who does? How many books did you read last year?
Last year, I'm trying to remember. My goal had been 100, and I did not quite make it. So I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was 87.
87.
Yeah.
For context, the most I've ever read in a year was, I think, 17.
Hey, that's still really good, though. Before I started the blog, do you remember why I started it necessarily?
Yeah.
Other than you being gone?
Get back into reading.
Yeah. So I wasn't, at that point, reading basically at all.
No, I wouldn't. I always joked that you were reading that Kurt Vonnegut novel backstage for like 6 shows in a row.
Yeah, I wasn't quite, but yes, very much so. Partially because I'm a slow reader, and I don't know if this is your TikToks that you always show me have gotten into my brain. I don't know if this is like the Aries in me or if it's just something else in my personality. But if I don't feel like I'm good at something, I have a really hard time doing it because it gets very discouraging for me very easily. And so I just got very deep on this book podcast. And so after I graduated high school and I wasn't really being told what to read anymore, which was my least favorite part of high school. I loved reading everything that I was not told I had to read.
It definitely feels a little easier to read something when it's not required.
Yeah, when you pick it out yourself,
Yeah.
it's a much easier read.
Also, I'm not reading Catcher in the Rye, but I'll read this other book because it's better than Catcher in the Rye. Low fucking bar. Yeah. Hot take. Not a hot take. Terrible book.
I didn't like that one very much. But once I graduated high school, I was kind of in a little bit of this limbo because obviously, I didn't immediately go into college like a lot of my friends did. And so I was just kind of working and I was acting and just kind of in between stages of my life for a couple of years. And I wasn't setting time aside to read. And because I'm such a slow reader, I would be sitting on this one book for 2 months or, whatever, and it would just get very discouraging for me. And I ended up not really reading at all. There was probably 2, maybe 3 years where the only books that I really read were maybe 2 a year. And one of them was my favorite book.
Still bragging.
Well, and one of them was the book that I reread every year. So it's not like that was, new information or any new learning that I was doing.
Heckin' chonker of a book, though.
I know. My page count was pretty good, but my book count was really low. And it actually started because for National Book Lovers Day, you had decided we were going to celebrate it together. And so...
Yeah, our favorite tradition that I literally never remember
we
every
don't
single
remember
year.
until, like, the day of, and we're like, crap, we have to order a book.
Not possible in Korea, can tell you that much.
Oh, boy. But you asked me, like, what book I had been wanting to read, and I had seen the trailer for the new, at that point, movie version of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. And I ended up reading it in a week or 2, probably. It was really quick once I picked it up. And I think partially because I was able to read it so quickly and partially because it's a book about people who love books, it just kind of reminded me how much I loved reading. And I was able to say, this is something that was such a huge part of my life that I really miss. And I kind of created the blog the Instagram that led to the blog that then eventually led to the podcast, because I wanted to kind of not really force myself, but give myself a reason to feel like I was allowed to prioritize reading again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not feel guilty for doing it.
Definitely get that.
Yeah.
So what would you say really sparked your interest in reading? That sounds very bland, but like what series or book did you pick up as a kid and you were like,
Sure.
oh, books are magic. What else, where can they take me?
I mean, it's going to sound like a super cliche, but my mom is such a reader.
Sure.
And so I grew up in a house that was filled with books. And so I just always had them available to me. And then when I was younger, it probably first started with the Magic Treehouse books when I was like very, very early reading.
That was like just after my time.
So
I haven't picked up a single one, but Emma and Annika, that was their thing. My sisters.
The jam, yeah. And I mean, they are really close to my age, so that would make sense. They were huge when I was a kiddo. But then after that, I mean, my mom bought me all of the Trixie Belden books, and I was always getting Nancy Drew books from the library. I always really loved the story and just the kind of mythology of King Arthur. Mm-hmm. And so I would pick up random books that dealt with that. So those were probably the big series for me. The Westing game was a huge one when I was a kid.
It's another one of those just like wasn't in my curriculum kind of thing, so yeah. I know people that loved it. That's not one that
I read through school. I think I just randomly found it at one of the Scholastic book fairs. Like there was a reprinting of it or something.
Scholastic book fairs, though.
Oh, wow. Just the perfect place. I want a Scholastic book fair for adults so badly. So like exactly the same, all the same cardboard like cases for the books and everything, just also with wine.
Okay.
And then just throw a couple smutty books in there. But but I think I just randomly found it at one of those and picked it up, and it was, again, just I was able to read it very quickly. It was one of the first times I remember feeling like I couldn't put a book down as a kid. And so yeah, I kind of like now my reading was a bit all over the place. But
did you ever do those like summer reading challenges? The library, was that?
Absolutely.
I assume that was a nationwide kind of rollout.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really big, really nice library in Puyallup by me when I was growing up, so they definitely did. I don't know if maybe the smaller libraries did. But yeah, I definitely did. It was just the, like, read this many books or this many pages. I didn't... You've talked about yours that you did before, where it was more specific books, right?
So there were... I think the one you're thinking of was... There was an Illinois reading list that came out. It was like Rebecca Caudle or something. That was just a list of, YA books that were new or acclaimed or something to that effect, and would get published in elementary schools. And if our school library did a thing where if you read them all, you would get something. It was never the Game Boy Advance that I wanted. It
never was.
I was convinced that was going to be the prize for every goddamn contest I entered.
Yeah.
Down to like a trivia contest in religious ed class. Like, it was so you could not tell me anything. But the like local library ones, the theme and like the style of the game kind of always changed. But it was just the thing to do. I remember one year it was just this like 12 by 12 bingo kind of thing, where it was like activities or specific types of books, and be like, read under a tree and have your parents initial the square kind of thing, or read a biography, or like whatever.
Yeah.
So
or like, I think I remember one summer with mine where it was like, read a book with a girl on the cover, like that kind of thing. But it was never specific books or even like types of books necessarily. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time reading, but it was always just kind of what I wanted to read. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we talked about what you read in the before times, in the great before. What are you reading now?
Like my current read, or what am I reading, just like in the grand sense?
However you're feeling about answering. No. I mean, we know that you're reading Court of Mist and Fury and adjectives.
Yes, a Court of Mist and Fury.
Yeah, noun of noun, the number noun of protagonist name.
I can't stand you.
It's not a pastel-colored book with a faceless protagonist on the cover and a heart.
Rude.
Next episode, I'm just going to stack them all up and be just a little goof for the YouTubers and just be like, look
just
at this.
In the background.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
I'll let you put a post together for the podcast Instagram. And it'll just be all those covers. That'd be very funny.
That'd be good, yeah. I don't want to talk about what you're reading right now. We already know what you're reading right now.
Yeah. There's a few of them. Yeah. But that's the main one.
Yeah, I know there are like 6 Kindle books that you read at once.
Yeah. Do you want to ask what my last read was? Because I finished one today.
Let me drive the boat.
Fine. Sit back and drink my drink.
How do you feel about mixing storytelling mediums? Physical book versus e-reader versus audiobooks. How do you keep that straight in your brain?
Sometimes it can be difficult. It kind of depends on what the books are in each medium that I'm typically, reading adjacently. If they are similar genres, sometimes it can be trickier than others. I remember there was a couple months ago I was reading, a historical romance, like Regency romance, on my Kindle and in paperback. And
before we go on, did that bodice get ripped?
It did.
Oh, good.
Yes. But only on the night of the honeymoon.
We keep it classy in this bodice ripper.
We keep it classy. But yeah, so sometimes it can be difficult. I think that it can help, in my opinion, having them be different mediums. Like, I can read something in print or on my Kindle, and the way that I read and hear my voice or the character voices in my head will be very different from how a narrator will read the lines of dialogue or will read the character voices. And so I can kind of help myself to keep them separate that way. And yeah, again, just trying to keep them different genres really helps me with that. So like, I'm not really reading a romance right now in any of my other mediums. And so the audiobook that I was listening to that I then finished this morning was just a contemporary romance. Because it is not as easy to confuse that with the true crime book that I'm reading or the fantasy, the ACOTAR book that I'm reading, you know?
Yeah. So are you excited for any books that are coming out in the next calendar year? Which is interesting, because like, I don't know how you, like, who knows when books are coming out?
Good bookstagrammers, of which I am not really one. There are some that I'm very excited about that I only know because of how excited I am. But unless I get an advanced copy of a book or it's one of my like 5 most anticipated releases, I'm actually really bad about remembering when they come out.
When you first started getting advanced copies of things, I thought that was akin to witchcraft or like maximum influencer status.
I know.
Like, I mean, you're.
Well, I did just get a very exciting one.
Oh yeah.
So
go on.
So that felt a little bit like witchcraft. But so like, I would say one of my most anticipated reads of the year is The Soulmate Equation.
Okay.
Which is the new Christina Lauren book.
Oh, okay. See, that's a name I know, even though it's not a name. It's 2 names.
It's 2 names. But you know that, and that's something that most people wouldn't actually know.
I'm very, like, I've got my finger on the pulse of the Bookstagrammer community, I like to think.
I think so.
I follow at least 3 of them. Most of them for their animals.
It's true.
Yeah.
But
Bernie the Labradoodle fucking is pumped for this one.
Very cute. That one I want to say comes out in May. Maybe I might be wrong.
It may not.
Goodness gracious.
You invited me onto the show that is the boat that I'm running.
Yes, onto your own boat.
Fucking mutiny up in here. Mutiny on the podcast, title of ep.
But anyway, so I'm really excited about that one. And another one of those was Act Your Age, Eve Brown, which is actually the audiobook that I finished this morning.
Oh ho.
That one, I want to say actually came out this last month, but I was able to get an advanced audiobook of that one. And then the one that I got approved for this morning that I had texted you about is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, which is
Casey McQuiston of Red, White, and Blue fame.
Yes, the
Red, White, and Royal
Blue. Red, White, and Royal Blue.
That was the pun.
Which is just a delightful read. I loved that one so much, and everyone on Bookstagram and just who enjoyed the book is getting very excited and having lots of chatter online about Dreamcasting the movie, because the movie rights were purchased.
Sure.
Which is cool. And again, I believe Casey McQuiston uses she, her pronouns. I probably should double check that and cut this part out.
You can just do the just like a real rough edit, like just like
if she doesn't just cut it with they, like have it be the Siri voice. Yeah. But she is really good in writing the LGBTQ plus community and those types of stories.
We love it.
I know. I just like swoon. Something about it is just so much more fun to read than a heterosexual romance.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's.
I don't know why I'm that way.
Why would you want to read about something? I don't want to say, like, why would you want to read? Like, there is something infinitely more interesting in a story that's not about you, in my opinion.
And a story that up until, I would say, a few years ago, you didn't get very often, especially in
absolutely.
contemporary romance.
Yeah.
It really didn't, in the mainstream, I would say, include too many LGBTQ plus relationships up until a few years ago. And it might have more with, like, indie authors and publishers, but the fact that this book is one of the most talked about new releases this year on Bookstagram, which is just so cool. Like, I'm so excited for that. But this one is a woman story.
Love that.
Very, very excited about that. Actually, I think that's going to be one of my next Kindle reads, just because I'm so excited about it.
Is it a direct sequel to Red, White, and Royal Blue, or does it take place in the same universe? Are some of our favorite characters going to come back and say hi?
I don't know if it takes place in the same, like, version of reality or not. I don't believe, to my knowledge, that it includes characters from the previous book. I think it's just, like, a spiritual successor.
Sure.
I could be completely wrong about that. I haven't read the book description since that was first released, which was about half a year ago. So it could be about the sister from the first book, and I just don't remember. But I don't think that it is.
Let's just take a guess. What's the title of the book?
One Last Stop.
One Last Stop. Okay, so we're thinking like a Greyhound bus romance.
I believe it's a subway. Like, they see each other on the subway and one of them gets off.
Okay.
Type thing.
Okay.
According to the cover. It's a very cute cover. If you saw this cover, it would be in your stack, your post that you're talking about.
I lost my momentum.
Oh, you got this. You're doing so good. Driving that boat so good, babe.
How much time do we have?
Unclear.
So we talk about what books we're excited for. What movies are you excited for to bring this into a realm that I can contribute to? Make this all about me.
Well, obviously, my first real viewing of Lord of the Rings.
Famously a book.
Famously a book. No, I have been really excited about Promising Young Woman.
A movie that came out last year that's sitting in our DVR, just ready to be watched.
Haven't watched yet, yeah. As far as, like, things that have not come out yet, the only one that I can really think of that is just like, I'm so excited for this, is In the Heights.
For sure.
I think Luca will be fun.
It looks super cute, if nothing else.
Yeah. You know, it's for the most part hard to go wrong with Disney and Pixar. I wish Pixar would bring in some more meaningful female characters into anything. The past few movies haven't really done anything with female characters.
No, the only one that did was an idea stolen from a woman.
Not their idea. Yeah. Anyway, love Disney, love Pixar. Not hating, just like they can do some things better. So I think Luca will be fun, but that's not like banging down the door excited, you know?
Sure.
So I really can only think of In the Heights at this moment. Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. I really want to get caught up on 2021 Oscar nominees because they're all on streaming right now. Because they've had to be. But most of them are just sitting there, but outside of like weekends, I don't have the mental capacity for them. I'll probably just like...
That's the problem. By the time we are like both done working for the day, sometimes when I stop working for the day, it's like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And we are just so exhausted mentally.
Yeah. I might just like send you a list and be like, I'm going to watch some movies over the long weekend while you're out of town.
Rude.
You really interested in seeing Nomadland?
I don't know what that one is.
Yeah, I'll send you a description. You can decide.
Okay.
That's what I mean. I wait until you're out of town to catch up on movies.
Rude. rude.
Yeah, we don't need to discuss that.
Do you want to talk about other questions? There are other questions that I ask my people sometimes.
Yeah, but I decided I didn't like them.
Wow.
Why do you think I was asking you so much about high school?
No shade, but shade.
I'm sorry. Have you read Everybody Is a Podcast Except You?
No, I'm
Didn't think
making
so.
you do my research for me.
I've learned approximately 2 things. That makes it sound like it's not helpful. It's very helpful. It's just all things that I looked up previously.
Yeah, it's things that you had to learn already because I already had a podcast.
Or just because I was interested. Like that's just I'm far more interested in how things get made than the average person.
Yeah.
So let's kind of steer it back from movies into books very eloquently and gently. Not a hard left turn, just like a gentle.
Why they pay you the big bucks?
Gentle glancing left. I steer this boat fucking great. This is not in any way, shape, or form difficult for me.
Is this just making you want to start your own podcast and interview people?
It's making me realize that I should have done literally any prep work. More than copying the text of your questions into a notes app that I keep having to open up on my phone.
I see.
Yeah. So again, gently gliding this into port, this giant boat that is this podcast.
What a long metaphor. Just keeps going.
What would the stern of the podcast be?
Oh God, I don't know. My brain is tired. You know that I can't do that kind of goofs.
So what would you say like a good book to movie adaptation are? You say you're always a sympathizer of book to movie adaptations.
I am. I think part of the reason that I am is and we've kind of had this discussion before when we've seen movies together, whether it's an adaptation or not, where I go into a movie just like really wanting and expecting that I will like it. You know, I think a lot of people will go in expecting this is going to be a good movie, and if it's not, I'm going to be annoyed. And I can't really think of too many movies in my life that I just haven't enjoyed, you know? I can think of a couple that I'm like, objectively, that's probably not a good movie, but it was fun. But yeah, so I just go in really wanting to enjoy the movie and the experience of seeing it. And so I would say even with adaptations of books or series that I enjoy, I kind of have that same mindset going in. I might have some higher expectations, or I might be sad that certain parts were cut out or whatever. But I really don't often find myself too disappointed in them.
Yeah. Okay, I'm tired. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a hard left turn.
It sure was.
We
That drink almost came out my nose.
I saw the dock that we were steering for, and I was like, I bet I could jump that. And now we're on the shore. Slightly worse for wear.
I see.
But we're home.
Well, since you are driving the boat, do you want to give the outro? Since I would ask you what you would like to plug, but last time you just tried to plug my personal Instagram. You were like, nothing for me, but go stalk my wife on her personal Instagram.
And I would like to again, at Jenna_Clausen.
With my, like, 300 followers.
Hey, it's soon to be 301.
Oh, thanks.
At least.
At least.
Probably. Maybe. So follow my wife on Instagram at Jenna_Clausen or tackling_TBR.
Underscore?
I don't remember.
I want to say it's Jenna.Clausen. I don't even know. Doesn't matter. Do you want to give the thing since you're driving the boat?
There's a fucking novel.
Because that I never remember. I have to read.
I'm counting this under my fucking books read this year list.
Fuck you.
Scroll.
Hey! Okay. Well, I did have it lined up all perfectly nicely for you.
This is quite the note.
Yeah, it sure is. It's all of my podcast shit. So thank you so much. You can just start with the "you can."
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'll give the epitaph for this episode.
Okay. I'm gonna sit here and drink my drink and just slightly glare at
catch
you
up.
while you make fun of me.
I ran out of drinks, and now I'm tired, and I would like to be off the podcast now.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting on you
Okay.
because you're wrapping us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, neat little bow and a nice little ship's knot.
Which knot are you gonna tie it up in? Because you're a sailor.
Bow hitch.
Sure.
Yeah.
Read the thing. You're so.
Your phone turned off.
Whose fault is that?
You can email us. You can email Jenna. I'm not going to read it.
He sure won't.
You can email Jenna at any time at thessamepagepod@gmail.com. If you have any books you think Jenna should read for the podcast, I'm not going to read them. Any questions or collaboration requests, you guys can stop requesting me. I'm here.
Nicholas.
Any questions or collaboration requests, or if you've read any of our reads already and have questions or things that you'd like us to include in our discussion, if we ever eventually get to someone who will love you in all your damaged glory.
Do you need me to read it?
We'd love for you to be a part of our discussion with us. If you want to reach out to Jenna specifically, you can find her blog with all of her full reviews. This is so hard to edit on the fly. You can find her blog with all her full reviews and tours and such on tacklingtbr.home.blog or over on Instagram at tackling_TBR. As for the podcast, you can find and connect with us on Instagram at The Same Page Podcast, on Twitter at The Same Page Pod, and you can find Jenna on both Instagram. No, wait.
No, it is us.
Yeah. As for the podcast, you can find and connect with us on Instagram at The Same Page Podcast, on Twitter at The Same Page Pod, and you can find us on both Facebook and YouTube by searching for The Same Page Podcast. And the last thing I'll say is if you are listening to our show and like what you hear, and how could you not?
If you're honestly still here after this episode and last week's episode, like, bravo, you get a gold star.
You're halfway across the bridge right now. There's going to be a whole thing where I have to pretend to be serious for a little bit.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
This was your idea.
Was it?
No.
Or was it you saying, I will come on the podcast?
This was me bailing you out.
Yeah.
Please consider heading to Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening to us and subscribing, giving us a positive rating, 5 stars please, and leaving your thoughts in a review. It's a process that only takes a few minutes, but really means the world to small shows like us get introduced to more bookish folks. I did it. 6 tries and 7 hard cuts later.
Well, what an episode. I don't know.
This just had a whole different energy.
Yeah, you thought this would be so fun, and
I had fun. Now I am tired.
It was wild. I am just mentally exhausted.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah, that's what I meant, definitely. I'm like, you, the person I'm married to, you exhaust me. Not like, hey, I've been working since I woke up this morning and haven't really stopped. You know.
I was giving you an out.
No, I'll take credit for all my hard work today. I earned it.
Yeah.
So on that note, like he said, if you want to follow us, that would be awesome. If you want to subscribe, whatever, all that jazz. He already went over it. He will be back again next week, and I will have actually read the book this time.
I'll be back despite your best judgment.
Yeah. And then y'all can tell me if you never want him on the podcast again. I probably won't listen because he's here anyway. So times that I need a last minute guest, it's real easy to shine my rings at him and just like put my ring finger in his face and be like, you have to because you love me.
It's like a less subtle bat signal.
Basically.
Somehow less subtle
so much less subtle. But he will be back. And on that note, I'm going to close this laptop now. So,
bye.
Bye.